Good day, students. Welcome to session 9. Almost there, and we are dealing with chapter 13 today. And the theme is qualitative and mixed methods research. All right, in this session, we'll look at qualitative and mixed methods research, two approaches that can be differentiated from the quantitative methods that we've used or discussed up till now. Qualitative research has got certain characteristics. We look at its issues of validity and some major methods. Same goes for mixed methods research. Now, mixed methods is actually a combination of qualitative and quantitative. But it also has its own issues about validity and so on. And there are some design criteria that we will get to. All right. Qualitative research is the approach to empirical research that relies on the collection of qualitative data. So what is important is this issue. Remember that the quantitative stuff that we've done up till now, experimental and quasi-experimental and non-experimental designs and measurement and so on, deals with empirical matters. So empirical matters are things that you can see, observe, measure, and so on. But qualitative research also deals with empirical research. It's sort of a misunderstanding to say that qualitative research doesn't deal with empirical data. And there are people that says that. All right. Qualitative data, however, are basically non-numeric, such as words, pictures, images. I'm not sure what the difference between pictures and images are, but there you go. Anything that you cannot sort of describe with measuring it. And there are lots of things that we can't measure. Right. Mixed method research is a type of research in which quantitative and qualitative data are combined in a single study. And I must tell you, I think most of our research, although we tend to have a preference for either one in a particular project, it's either characterized as one or the other. I think whether you do quantitative or qualitative, there's always a little bit of the other involved as well. Especially in quantitative studies, it's a misunderstanding to say that you do not work with words for interpretation and stuff like that. You do. So there's a qualitative element even in quantitative studies. All right, but be that as it might. Here we have the characteristics of the three approaches, and please note that these are this particular textbook textbook summary of the three sort of paradigms or approaches. I have a bit of a different view on this, but I will not confuse you. I will refer to that a little bit later on in this lecture. But you need to know what people usually think about these things. Say, for instance, in terms of the scientific emphasis for quantitative research, the textbook says it's confirmation and falsification. Now, there's one mistake. We've seen that we do not try to confirm stuff because it's easy to do. We rather follow a falsification route. That's why we use the null hypothesis, blah, blah, blah. but it focuses on testing hypotheses and theories. Not so much confirmation, but in any case, this is what this book says. Right, qualitative research is exploratory, focuses on generating hypotheses and theories, and I don't think that's strictly correct as well. I think qualitative research also can, over and above generating hypotheses and theories, also can work with testing those theories, although not in the same way as quantitative research. All right, mixed methods or mixed research has an equal emphasis on both, combines hypothesis, theory generation, and testing. Then, okay, let's look at the primary view of reality. Quantitative research, it's objective. We focus on the material, physical, and causal. And qualitative research focuses on the subjective. Four major qualitative research methods. The first one is phenomenology, which plainly means you are trying to understand or describe a person's lived experience. Let's see. Researcher attempts to understand and describe how one or more participants experience a phenomenon. Example like the death of a loved one, counseling session, illness, and so on. The key question is then, what is the meaning, structure, and essence of the lived experience of this phenomenon for a particular individual or many individuals? You would like to access the participant's life world. Now, life world is a term the person responsible for the phenomenological, philosophical theory developed, Husserl. He spoke about life world. So life world means basically the lived world as you are experiencing it. The research participants in a world of subjective experience where you have lived experiences where your immediate consciousness exists. So yeah, as you are busy, I can, for instance, do a phenomenological study on your experience of these lectures and get a lot of information out on about how frustrated, bored, excited, and so on you are. Okay. Examples are, there are some examples, for instance, experience of racism, addiction, sexual abuse, psychotic symptoms, anything. And usually this is a very, again, a very important part of scientific inquiry is to get the lived experience of people, especially in the social science. Okay. In order for us to understand it. Look at this last one, the meaning of aging. If you want to understand how people feel and how you in the end could help them, ask them about their experiences and understanding of aging. What is it to get old? Which you guys don't have to bother about now, but in any case. All right, the primary method of data collection is in-depth interviews. You can also look at documents describing experience, ask people to write it down and so on, and describe it. Second method is ethnography. This is one of the crucial methods initially in the social and anthropological sciences that has been developed and gave much of an impetus to qualitative research methods. It focuses on the discovery and description of the culture of a group of people. Phenomenology, much small groups, one person. Ethnography focuses on cultures or groups of people. Culture means the shared beliefs, values, practices, language, and norms, the rituals and material things the members of the group use to interpret and understand their world. You can do ethnography in almost any setting where there's lots of people involved. Like, for instance, in this class, there's a certain culture, understanding norms and rituals. People belonging to subcultures, to political parties, to whatever. It means that they have shared values, culturally defined standards about what is good or bad, or desirable or undesirable. Focus is holistic. The idea is that the whole, such as the culture, is more than the sum of the individual parts. So, yeah, you can look at the individual experiences, but in the end, it constitutes culture or uh, something that transcends the individual. Shared beliefs, statements or conventions that people share a culture hold to be true or false. Their norms, written and unwritten rules. We often, in any organization or group setting, there might be different norms and rules for behavior. If you are a member of a photography club, it constitutes a group with its own culture and norms and values. The focus of ethnography, this is interesting, and these are two terms that we need to know, emic and etic. Emic perspective means the insider's perspective, from inside. If you are a participant or uh, immerse yourself within a culture, you provide an emic perspective. If I'm as a researcher, go to your photography club and trying to understand it from the outside, it's an etic perspective. Right. Important two terms. The primary data collection, participant observation. A researcher can become an active participant. It requires entering acceptance. This is the usual way to do this so that you actually provide an emic perspective of group. You must guard against the reactive effect, non-typical behavior of participants because of the presence of a researcher. So how do you do ethnography or an ethnography study of prisoners? Do I become a prisoner? You can. That situation, yeah, you will probably have an etic perspective, but some researchers do stuff like that to become part of the culture and group and get accepted by that particular group to study them. Data analysis, usually by analysis of themes and patterns of behavior and writing a narrative report. There are other terms that you need to know. Gatekeepers, those are the group members who control the researcher's access to the group. So if I want to join the photography group, there will be gatekeepers. Ethnocentric judgment of people in other cultures based on standards of your culture. Then going native. It's over-identification with the group in studies so that one loses one's any possibility of objectivity. Immerse yourself to such an extent, I've become such a good criminal in prison that I actually enjoy it and I lose my objectivity and purpose for why I'm there. Fieldwork. General term for data collection and field notes, the notes that you took. Right, the third qualitative method is, there's my dog again, case study research. Now, case study usually is being associated with one case, one person, but it could be a collection of people, You can take the photography club as a case as well. It's a method in which the researcher provides a detailed description and account of one or more cases. A case is a bounded system. Primary data collection method, multiple sources and methods such as in-depth interviews, documents, questionnaires, test results, and archival records. So if I take an organization like the photography club, I've got all those sources to triangulate from. Contextual and life history data also collected to contextualize the case and to aid in understanding the causal trajectories that might have influenced the case. Okay. The whole idea is to get a holistic picture of a case. Types of case studies: intrinsic case study, instrumental case study, and a collective case study. And there are various, you can have a look at that. Not difficult. Right. Then the last one of the last major qualitative methods, grounded theory. It's a methodology for generating and developing a theory that is grounded in a particular data. Now, it's an abductive process. I've got data and I need to formulate a theory that fits that particular data. Now, the grounded theory in qualitative research was originally formulated by Glasser and Strauss. That's important to remember because they are the two major proponents. The foundational question is what theory or explanation emerges from an analysis of the data collected about this phenomenon. Grounded theory, grounded in empirical data. Quite different from other scientific ways of thinking, but in any case, 4 key characteristics of good ground theory is the newly constructed ground theory should fit the data. Does the theory correspond to real-world data? The theory must provide an understanding of the phenomenon. Understanding means that you can explain the relationships. The theory should have some generality. Is the theory abstract enough to move beyond the specifics in the original study? Theory should contribute to some control of the phenomenon. Can it be applied to produce real-world results? And remember, this grounded theory exercise is grounded in, well, situated within actual experiences of people. Again, as the others, you can probably do a grounded theory exercise with quantitative methods as well, but this is not the idea in this instance. The idea is to assist you in formulating a explanatory theory or theory to understand the data. Fine. Similar to the researcher as detective. Get data, explain it. Now here's an example, wonderful example, which you can read in the book, but let me quickly explain this. Oops. This researcher wanted to investigate shame. The phenomenon of shame and how you overcome shame. And after talking to lots of people, formulate this theory that shame almost forms a great part of oneself as soon as you overcome the process of shame or what have you, shame. So you can see this is sort of a model formulated or a theory. Go and read that in the book, but he or she identified von Philip. identified various themes in the data, like connecting, refocusing, accepting, understanding, and resisting, and how that impacts on your experience of shapes. Go and read that example in the textbook. Data collection, the most common methods are interviews and observations. Data analysis includes open coding, which is the first stage of data analysis in grounded theory. Open coding means that you read through the data, see there are themes involved, and then assign codes to those themes. And you'll quickly see that the stuff that people talks about falls into these different themes. So the open coding actually assists you to assign the information to one of the themes. Axial coding is the second stage of data analysis. Focuses on making concepts more abstract and ordering them into a theory. Now, as soon as you have these larger themes, which was done in the open coding, you start to abstract the concepts and refining the concepts so that they start forming to make sense as a theory. All right. Selective coding, third and final stage in which the theory is finalized. Right, so then I have a model or a theory which I can sort of test against new empirical findings and observations. Now, the concept of theoretical saturation is very important in qualitative methods. It occurs when no new information relevant to the grounded theory is emerging from the data. So, if I have a sample of 30 people or 20 or 10 people, and I increase, say, let's start off with 10, and I manage to formulate this particular theory of shame and the self. If I interview more people, I do not gain more information over and above the particular themes and sub-themes that I got over there. So then the theory is theoretically saturated. Right, mixed methods research. We've dealt with qualitative. Now let's look at mixed methods. That's the approach in which both quantitative and qualitative methods are used. It's based on the compatibility thesis. It's the position that quantitative and qualitative research methods and philosophies can be combined. I think which is true in a sense. The way most of the proponents of mixed methods combine these two is on pragmatic reasons. In other words, the utility that it affords for formulating a theory and explaining stuff. Now, pragmatism is a philosophy focusing on what works as the criterion of what should be viewed as tentatively true and useful in research and practice. I think, well, that's between me and you. I think pragmatism is a bit of a cop-out in this instance. It's can easily say that I rather use a combination of things or X or Y because it's useful. Yeah, but I think there's a deeper sense of combining quantitative or deeper principle behind combining quantitative and qualitative. But you need to know that pragmatism is the most popular underlying paradigm for mixed methods, saying something about its ontology and epistemology. Questions to be answered when using a mixed method design: should you primarily use one method or treat them equally? Should phases of study be conducted concurrently or sequentially? This is very important. These two sentences tell you how to design a mixed methods study. which method is primary, and when you do phases of a study, either qualitative, quantitative, quantitative, qualitative, both concurrently, how would you choose to do that? And that informs your design. All right, pragmatism, as I said, motivates or underlies most of the arguments for mixed methods research. But I say realism is a better philosophy or a better grounding of mixed methods. I fully agree that mixed methods is a good scientific approach, is a good scientific approach. But the realism accommodates quantitative, qualitative, multiple, and mixed methods better than other paradigms like positivism or constructionism or even pragmatism. Realism is based on the basic tenet that science is critical. It's a critical movement between reality and the scientist, and which means that your method should be appropriate to the phenomenon. And that's obvious. I mean, some stuff can be measured, some stuff can't. So use appropriate method to unlock or investigate, describe, and explain your phenomenon. And depending on the method that you use, whether it's qualitative, quantitative, or combination, or what have you, you are involved in a critical engagement with the phenomenon, right? The systematic critical engagement. And there you can see this author wrote something about realism in psychological science, which can be nice to have. Background. Okay. Now it's me. Strengths and weaknesses. Strengths are stuff like can provide multiple sources, can reduce the alternative explanations because you use triangulation, a quantitative and a qualitative strategy, and so on and so on. This is a really very simple and easy to understand. Weaknesses require skill in both quantitative and qualitative, and that's one of the things that people why people avoid mixed methods. You need skills in both areas, and most of us either prefer quantitative or qualitative for various reasons. You just feel more familiar or at ease with a particular method. And some of us like numbers. Yeah, some of us don't. So it can be more time consuming and expensive because it's a new methodology. Many design implementation analysis procedures remain to be fully worked out. Although it's as old or young as qualitative methods. Go and look at this author's discussion of those issues. All right. Research validity in mixed methods. Inside-outside validity present when the researcher provides both an insider and objective outsider perspective. And what do we call those perspectives? Page back in your slides. Unique ethic. Weakness, minimization validity present when the researcher compensates for the weaknesses of one approach through the use of an additional. Sequential validity makes sure that the ordering of quantitative and qualitative components in sequential does not bias the results. Sample integration validity. Researchers must not treat the quantitative and qualitative samples as equal. You can't, but instead draw appropriate conclusions from each. And when you usually have different samples in the mixed methods, that's why you use it in mixed methods. The one is sort of a testing of the other one, exploration of the other one, and so on and so on. So yeah, Sometimes it can be the same sample, but remember for statistical designs and quantitative designs, you have certain minimum to increase statistical conclusion. Multiple validities. Make sure your mixed method study meets appropriate quantitative, qualitative, mixed methods validity types. So we'll just go back to the. All right, the mixed methods designs can be arranged according to two dimensions, as I've said previously. The first one is time order. And the second one is the paradigm emphasis. So the time order refers to one of the two dimensions of either qualitative or quantitative, which can be emphasized. One of the two dimensions used is in the mixed methods design matrix. Its levels are concurrent and sequential. So you can do quantitative and qualitative together or one after the other. Doesn't matter which one. Depends, well, it does matter. It depends on what you want to do. Then the paradigm emphasis is one of the two dimensions used in mixed methods design matrix. It has either equal status or a dominant status. So you place more emphasis, for instance, on the quantitative or the qualitative, or both have equal emphasis. And this can be illustrated by this lovely little matrix. On top you have the time order with concurrent and sequential. On the side you have the paradigm emphasis with equal status or dominant status. So you can see when they have equal status, both are in capital letters. So they, when you have it in lower caps, it's lower caps. Uncapitalized, you have its emphasis is less. So emphases are equal and they take place sort of at the same time. When it's sequential, you can see either the one or the other is first, second, but they both have equal status and so on. I mean, it's relatively easy to follow the table. On the side, you have the explanation of the symbols. As this is not a very good slide, but one that you need to know. This is an example of three basic designs based on the previous table. The first one is a one-phase design, so you can imagine it's a concurrent one with equal emphasis on quantitative and qualitative data analysis. Results are merged and then interpret results are compared and so on. That's the convergent design or the one-phase design. When you have a two-phase design, look at your table, then you have a sequential design. Right. Explanatory sequential design or a two-phase design. Phase one, quantitative data, collection and analysis, identify results for follow-up, and then qualitative collection analysis, and then interpret the results. How qualitative explains the quantitative. All right, so that's sort of also equal emphasis, maybe in this instance. Quantitative and then qualitative, equal emphasis on both of them. And that's called explanatory sequential two-phase. Then you have a three-phase design as well. Exploratory sequential design, a three-phase design. Phase one, qualitative data analysis. Phase two, identify features for testing with a new instrument, blah, blah, blah. Phase 3, quantitative test the future design. So the qualitative data analysis has a bit of less emphasis. Your main aim is to quantitatively test something and but utilize the qualitative data analysis then to construct an instrument which you can use fully in a quantitative. So 3 examples explaining the previous table. That concludes our lecture. Enjoy the day.